Scorpio soul, today's message is unlike anything you've heard before. A lawyer is about to reach out to you, but this isn't just a legal notice, it's a divine message, wrapped in justice, timing, and spiritual restoration. What's coming your way is more than documents or negotiations, it's a sacred confirmation that what was once delayed is now being returned. The universe has heard your silent petitions, felt your quiet endurance, and has ruled in your favor behind the scenes. Something that once belonged to you, whether financial, energetic, or ancestral, is now in motion to find its way back. And this moment, right here, is your sign. Welcome to Miracle of the Sign, the place where souls like yours come not to seek permission, but to remember their power. If you found this video, it wasn't by accident. It's the result of divine design, a cosmic invitation, a spiritual alignment that's calling you closer to truth, justice, and breakthrough. Close your eyes for just a breath. Can you feel that subtle shift within you? That vibration that says, "This message is meant for me"? That's not coincidence. That's resonance. A legal situation, a contract, a financial matter, or an unspoken promise is now being addressed on your behalf, not just by man, but by God, by spirit, and by the law of divine timing. Whether it's an unexpected letter, an email from a professional, or a call you didn't see coming, trust that it carries not just information, but restoration. You've been carrying the weight of waiting, the ache of being overlooked, the silence of not being heard. And yet, you stayed true. You didn't force, beg, or manipulate. You anchored yourself in faith. You chose integrity when the world rewarded haste. And now, the universe is tipping the scales, not because you fought harder, but because the weight of your truth is undeniable. So if you're here, Scorpio, pause for a moment and let that truth sink in. This is the moment your energy shifts from surviving into receiving. And when you're ready to claim what's already on its way, I invite you to comment below, "I am ready." Divine justice is finding its way to me now. That declaration doesn't just live on a screen, it echoes into the field of manifestation, where unseen forces begin to move in your favor. Now, before we continue, let me take a sacred pause to thank you. Your presence here means more than words can express. Every like, every comment, every share, every subscription, each one is a ripple of energy that not only supports this channel, but nourishes a global field of transformation. You are helping bring these messages to others who need them. You are part of something deeply alive and real. And for that, from my heart, thank you. And Scorpio, trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the final word of this message. What the universe is revealing today is not only timely, it's life-shifting. We are entering a moment of revelation. Something sacred is being delivered. You don't want to miss what comes next. Tell me in the comments what brought you here today. Was it a sign? A repeating number? A tug in your spirit you couldn't ignore? Your answer matters. Because it might just be the final confirmation you've been asking for. Scorpio, if you're still with me, then you've already felt the undeniable pull of what's happening in your life right now. There's a sacred recalibration unfolding, not out loud, not with thunder, but with the quiet precision of cosmic order moving beneath the surface. Saturn, the great karmic architect, has taken residence in your 8th house. This is no ordinary placement. The 8th house rules over shared resources, contracts, legacies, inheritances, and even the silent debts, energetic or material, that pass between people without ever being spoken. And when Saturn moves through this domain, it doesn't overlook a single detail. It begins a sacred audit. One that doesn't punish, but restores. One that doesn't forget, but remembers everything you gave when no one else did. There have been times when you extended your patience far beyond what was fair. You gave your time freely, lent your loyalty without being asked, and offered forgiveness when others couldn't even give you honesty. You stayed still when you could have walked away. You gave when it cost you more than others will ever understand. But the cosmos understood. And Saturn's slow, deliberate, exacting Saturn recorded it all. While others may have misinterpreted your grace as weakness, the universe didn't. It recognized the sacred currency of your integrity. And now, that energy, once left open, is circling back. Not because you chased it, but because it was always yours. And here's where things shift even deeper. As Saturn begins aligning with Jupiter in Taurus, a sign known for stability, self-worth, and material security, a profound gateway opens. Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches, and in this case, it's magnifying the quiet justice that Saturn has been preparing for you. Together, they're creating what I can only describe as a cosmic courtroom, where the energy you once gave away freely is now being returned with interest. Maybe in the form of a settlement, a legal notice, a long-awaited decision, or maybe in the unexpected kindness of someone finally recognizing your worth. But it will come. Because energetic imbalance always finds its way back into alignment, especially when you've held the line without resentment. You may have felt stuck for months or even years, as if a door you once knocked on was never going to open. But delays are not denials. Sometimes, what seems paused is actually being recalibrated to arrive at the perfect time when you're truly ready to receive without guilt, without apology, and without shrinking yourself to fit the container it arrives in. That's what Saturn teaches, the value of slow, earned, lasting blessings. And Jupiter ensures that when the blessing comes, it doesn't arrive small. I want you to take a deep breath right now and really let this land. All the unseen efforts. All the unrewarded loyalty. All the times you said yes when you wanted to say no. None of it was wasted. It was being counted not in a book of punishment, but in a ledger of sacred return. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. And this season, Scorpio, is where it starts to show. If you've ever felt like someone owed you more than they gave, if you've ever held your silence and wondered if the universe was even listening, I want you to comment below, right 777, to affirm your knowing. Because yes, this is the moment where justice meets timing, and the scales are beginning to tip. Not in chaos, but in divine, grounded grace. You're not asking for more than what's fair. You're just finally aligned with what was always meant to return to you. Scorpio, as the veil between the visible and invisible thins, you may already feel the subtle tug of clarity rising. The energy of this moment is not loud or forceful, it is sacred, intentional, and quietly assertive, like the first breeze before a long-awaited storm of restoration. And when we turn to the tarot for deeper insight, what appears isn't random. Justice. The Hierophant. The Ace of Pentacles. 3 cards, each carrying profound energy, but together, they form a narrative so precise, so intimate, that it could only be meant for someone who has waited as long and as patiently as you have. The Justice card speaks first, not with noise but with certainty. It does not negotiate. It reveals. It clarifies. It slices through the haze of confusion like a sword of light, restoring the balance between what was given and what was taken, between silence and truth. This card doesn't just point to legal affairs, it addresses karmic contracts, unspoken agreements, unresolved debts of energy and intention. If someone once overlooked your value, denied your contribution, or withheld what was rightfully yours, justice shows up now to remind you, what is yours cannot be stolen forever. Not because you fought harder, but because you remained aligned with truth even when the world around you did not. Then the Hierophant enters not as an authority that demands obedience, but as a symbol of sacred order. Often misunderstood as rigid, this card is, in fact, a mirror reflecting divine timing and alignment. It represents the deeper spiritual laws at play, the rules that govern not man's law, but the cosmic law. It asks, were you faithful to your principles even when it was inconvenient? Did you act from integrity when no one was watching? If so, this card is your reminder that you have followed the unspoken sacred path, and now, the path is preparing to give something back. This is often when messages begin to arrive through dreams, through conversations, through unexpected contact from figures of authority like a lawyer or mediator. These moments aren't coincidences. They are answers. And then comes the Ace of Pentacles, glowing with grounded potential. It doesn't scream like a jackpot, it hums with quiet power. It is the seed of tangible blessing, a financial return, a home, a contract in your favor, or even something as simple and healing as being seen and validated after a long period of invisibility. Pentacles are earth energy, they don't promise fantasy. They promise form. And when this card shows up after Justice and the Hierophant, it suggests that something real, something that can be touched, held, and claimed, is about to enter your physical world. Not because you demanded it, but because your energetic frequency has finally ripened to match it. That is the core of the law of attraction, an often misused concept that isn't about wishing harder, but about aligning deeper. Your energy doesn't beget calls. Your truth doesn't need to be proven, it simply waits until the external world catches up with the internal reality. When you stay in integrity, when you plant seeds of trust and surrender, the harvest comes not always in the season you expect, but always in the season you need most. This spread Justice, Hierophant, Ace of Pentacles is not just telling you that something is coming. It's reminding you that you are the reason it is. Your stillness was powerful. Your silence was not empty. And now, a messenger, perhaps a lawyer, a professional, or a dream will deliver not only a message, but an opportunity to restore what was once left incomplete. That opportunity is sacred. And the moment you recognize it as such, it becomes more than chance. It becomes fulfillment. Scorpio, everything within you may be longing for a moment of confirmation, not loud or dramatic, but quietly undeniable. And perhaps what's been missing hasn't just been a financial resolution or a material return, but the healing of something far deeper, your sense of worth, your right to be seen, your need to feel safe in your own truth again. What is unfolding now is not merely about compensation, it is about restoration. Restoration of dignity. Restoration of balance. Restoration of your voice in spaces where you once had to remain silent. For a long time, you may have felt invisible in the very places where you gave the most of yourself, your time, your love, your loyalty. And though your actions spoke volumes, it seemed like the world turned away, moved on, or forgot. But the truth is, the energy of what you gave has never left the field. It has simply been waiting like a seed planted in soil until the conditions were finally right for it to bloom. That time is now. But unlike what we're taught to expect, restoration doesn't always arrive with lightning. Sometimes it enters softly, wrapped in the ordinary: a simple email, a direct message, a quiet phone call. And yet, when it comes, it shifts something sacred inside you. It's not the message itself that holds the power. It's what it validates within you, the knowing that you were never asking for too much. That your efforts were never in vain. That you were always enough even in the seasons where no one mirrored that back to you. In my years of working with energy, astrology, and inner transformation, I've seen this pattern again and again. When someone has poured their love into others without conditions, when they've shown up consistently in silence, when they've trusted that their integrity was more important than applause, there comes a moment when the universe decides it's time to give something back. Not just to fill a bank account, but to mend the invisible spaces where self-worth had been questioned, where hope had been thinned by delay. And that's what this part of your journey is about. You're not simply receiving something. You're being reminded of who you've been all along. Someone who didn't need to beg to be worthy. Someone who held on, even when it hurt, because deep down you knew something bigger than pain was still unfolding. This healing is not performative. It's quiet. Gentle. It happens in your nervous system, in your breath, in the way your body finally relaxes because you no longer feel like you're carrying it all alone. You don't have to explain why you stayed. You don't have to justify why you hoped. What's yours is returning not because you forced it, but because your inner alignment called it back. And with that return, something even more profound begins to settle: peace. Not the peace that comes from everything being perfect, but the peace that rises when you finally stop fighting your own story. So if you felt discouraged, if you've questioned whether your value has been seen by anyone, I want you to know, the energy is shifting. Not because someone gave you permission, but because your soul decided it is time. No more shrinking. No more waiting to be chosen. You are the one who brings the light back into the room simply by choosing to stay open. And that, in itself, is enough. Scorpio, as we continue this journey together, you may start noticing the subtle patterns surrounding you: numbers that repeat, colors you're suddenly drawn to, moments of déjà vu that seem to echo a deeper meaning. These aren't random. They are the whispers of energy, quiet yet insistent, guiding you back to alignment with your soul's next chapter. When we talk about energetic attunement, we're not speaking of something abstract or disconnected from your daily life. We're talking about the frequency you carry, the silent broadcast of your being, and how the universe responds to it with perfect timing and symbolic clarity. The numbers that appear around you aren't just numbers, they are codes. In the language of energy, 7 is the vibration of karmic closure. It arrives when a cycle has reached completion, when the lessons have been absorbed and the debts, both emotional and energetic, have been balanced. If you've been seeing 7 often, or sequences like 733 or 307, it's no coincidence. These are indicators that the loop is closing. That the part of your story where you had to wait, endure, prove, or hold on alone is reaching its end. You are being prepared for a new space, not because you chased it, but because you became ready to hold it with grace. And then there's the number 3. This is the number of rebirth, creation, and joyful expression. In numerology, it represents the return of vitality after stillness, the blooming of possibility after restraint. When 3 follows 7 in your awareness, it tells a beautiful story. The old is complete, and the new is here. It is a sacred sequence of surrender and emergence. You don't have to push for it, it's already unfolding beneath your feet. All you need to do is become aware, and lean in. In energy work, color is one of the fastest ways to shift our state of being. Colors carry frequencies, and by surrounding yourself with specific hues, you begin to resonate with those qualities. Earthy green, for instance, brings in healing and natural growth. It grounds you, stabilizes your nervous system, and reminds your heart to soften. When worn or placed intentionally in your space, green helps your energy return to balance after emotional upheaval. It gently encourages forward movement while keeping you rooted in inner harmony. Then we have the gold shunnied, warm, radiant. Whether it's soft amber or burnished bronze, these tones carry the frequency of solar confidence, abundance, and divine recognition. Gold isn't loud, it's steady. It reminds you that you are worthy of being seen, not for performance, but simply for presence. When you wear gold, light a golden candle, or place it in your surroundings, you are telling the universe, I am ready to receive. I trust what's coming. I trust myself to hold it. And it doesn't have to be complicated. A change in wallpaper on your phone, a favorite scarf, a flicker of candlelight before bed with the intention to align with your highest blessing, these are not empty gestures. They are energetic agreements. You are signaling that you are not only waiting for your breakthrough, but actively preparing to meet it. The shift always begins within. And as you align with the vibration of closure, rebirth, harmony, and recognition, life begins to move accordingly. The energy moves where you give it permission to. So if you've been seeing patterns, if you felt drawn to certain colors lately without understanding why, pause and listen. Your soul is already speaking. Your next chapter is already humming. All that's required now is your conscious yes. Scorpio, you've journeyed with such depth through these messages, through cosmic patterns and energetic recalibrations, and now the time has come to gently bring that wisdom back down into the body, into the tangible, the practical, the real. Because the truth is, no miracle can fully land until we create the inner and outer space to hold it. You are not here to wait passively for blessings to appear. You are here to meet them halfway, to live in a way that honors what you know you deserve. And this is where self-help becomes sacred, not because it is perfect, but because it is intentional. Let's begin with your body, that quiet vessel which has held so much without always asking for rest. Scorpio is a sign of emotional intensity, and when left unexpressed, that energy doesn't vanish, it stores itself in the lower back, in the gut, in the tightness of the shoulders and neck. These areas become silent archives of stress, fear, and old expectations. This is why I often suggest gentle, grounded movement like 15 minutes of restorative yoga each day. Not as a performance, but as a reunion. When you move with care, your body begins to trust again. Adding liver-supporting foods like grapefruit, centella leaves, or ginger turmeric tea helps not just with physical detoxification, but with emotional release too. Because your nervous system can't fully reset unless your body feels safe enough to let go. In the realm of finances, there's something incredibly powerful about reclaiming your voice through journaling. Write it down, not just your hopes, but your truths. Affirm out loud, I am receiving what was always mine. Even if part of you doubts it, writing it consistently rewires your subconscious to recognize it as possible. And now may be the perfect time to revisit contracts, legal matters, old claims, or forgotten benefits. This is your legal awakening season, not because you must fight, but because you finally have the energetic authority to advocate for what is fair. The energy we've spoken of so far is pointing to a tangible opening. But tangible shifts often begin with clarity and paperwork. Don't be afraid to make the call, ask the question, or review the forgotten document. Sometimes miracles hide in the fine print. When it comes to work, your soul may already know the truth even if your mind hasn't caught up. If your current role feels like it's draining you more than it's fueling you, ask yourself, am I still growing here? Or am I staying because I've forgotten that my worth doesn't depend on being needed? You are not meant to stay in containers that can no longer stretch with your evolution. And if you feel invisible in your work, it may not be because you're doing something wrong. It may be because you're being redirected towards something better. Honor your exhaustion not as a weakness, but as a compass. Let it show you what no longer fits. And in love, Scorpio, you love profoundly, often in silence, often through sacrifice. But real love doesn't demand that you abandon yourself to be chosen. It's not love if it costs you your voice, your boundaries, or your dreams. True love lifts you, nourishes your freedom, and expands your spirit without asking you to shrink. If you're in a relationship that feels like a negotiation with your worth, it may be time to pause and ask, is this love sustaining me? Or is it only surviving through my silence? Living as though you are already worthy of restoration, joy, and peace, that is how the door opens. That is how the blessing arrives. It's not about doing more. It's about living in a way that says, I believe it's already mine. And as you do, watch how life begins to rearrange itself around that unshakable truth. Scorpio, if you've made it to this moment, take a deep breath, not just into your lungs, but into the space where your spirit lives. Let yourself feel the stillness. This isn't just the end of a video. This is the beginning of something you've quietly prayed for, long before words were even formed. What has unfolded here today is not a promise dressed in uncertainty, but a confirmation carved out by timing, intention, and truth. The universe is not guessing with you. It is choosing you. Not by chance, but by alignment. You are not a victim of fate. You are the one carrying the light forward. And whether that light appears in the form of an unexpected message, a long overdue decision, or the inner peace you've been seeking in silence, what matters most now is how you choose to respond to it. Will you accept what is returning without guilt? Will you soften into the knowing that you never had to prove your worth, you only had to recognize it? The miracle isn't coming because you forced it. It's arriving because you finally became available to receive it. And yet, even now, you still have a choice. Will you hold on to the old stories that say you're not ready, not enough, not seen? Or will you gently lay them down and walk forward as the version of yourself who trusts that every closed door, every delay, every silent season was preparing the soil for this exact moment? You've carried so much for so long. Isn't it time to let the healing begin, not just emotionally or spiritually, but practically, legally, materially? You've done the work. Now let the work begin to give back to you. So I ask you with care, what would it look like to live as though your prayers are already being answered? How would you walk if you knew the universe was already rearranging things in your favor? What would shift if you truly believed this moment right here, right now was the start of something sacred. Let this not just be a message you heard. Let it be the moment you remembered your power. And if something stirred in you while listening, if you felt a truth rise that you didn't expect, and keep it to yourself. Write it. Speak it. Share it. In the comments below, affirm this with your whole being: I am ready. I am the one who activates the miracle. Let this declaration echo through your energy field and into the heart of creation. Let it be your yes. I want to take a moment to thank you for being here, not just as a viewer, but as a soul who is brave enough to seek, to listen, to heal. Every like, every comment, every subscription you offer nourishes this sacred space we're building together here at Miracle of the Sign. You're not just supporting a channel, you're joining a movement of restoration and awakening. Your presence here is not small. It is powerful. And Scorpio, trust me, didn't arrive here by mistake. Someone may be preparing to contact you. A door may be about to open. A signature may be closer than you think. But none of that matters more than the truth you now hold inside. You are ready. You are worthy. And you are not waiting for life to choose you. You are stepping forward and choosing it fully, freely, and finally. So I leave you with this question: what happens when you no longer question the blessing, but start living like it's already yours? The answer, dear soul, is everything.